Today's video, I'm going to give you an in-depth review of the new Mizuno irons, the 221, the 223 and the 225 irons. We'll look at how they feel and how they perform. And of course, I'll look at the performance of the three irons. I'm going to compare them to each other, so we'll look at the data to see really which style of golfer each iron is going to be suited towards. And the last thing we're going to do is we're actually going to take them to the golf course. So we're going to see how these perform in live situations when I'm trying to shape a ball, when I'm trying to stop a ball on a green, and around the green itself in terms of the short game shots. So make sure you check out this video. It's going to be very in-depth and really going to help you choose which Mizuno iron you should be looking at.
So the first thing I wanted to do was make sure I was trying these in the right spec. So I had a custom fit on the DNA Mizuno system with Anthony Haste over at Horsley Lodge Golf Club. And we really, from the data that will come up here, narrowed down into 1/2 inch long, 2 degrees upright, and some shafts here. I had 3 different shafts to take away. So all 120 grams, all in a stiff flex, and all perform quite similar. Of those, I was actually plumped in more for the KBS Tour 120S, so a heavy shaft but designed for more of a mid-ball flight, whereas a lot of those heavy shafts are designed to keep the ball down a little bit lower. So what I'm going to be testing here in terms of these heads in the 120, 123 and 125 is I've got them in the right spec. I'm going to try them all in the same shaft, at the same length, at the same lie angle, with the same grip. So we're going to have as consistent data as we can to pick from. So I've just hit 5 shots with each of these in the same spec, with the same golf ball, same conditions. Of course, I am only human, unfortunately not a robot, so there is some human error in there, but I think these results are exactly what you would expect to see. So with the 221, the weakest loft, the bladed club, my ball speed was 117 as an average. It jumped, or just under that, it jumped up to 118.1, so a little bit quicker when we went into the 223, and 122 when we got to the 225 irons. So it got quicker as the club got stronger lofted and more technology in the head. The other things you'd expect to see, the launch angle started coming down. So I was launching the 221 at 19.6 degrees. It came down to 19.2 in the 223s and 17.9 in the 225 irons. The spin also came down from 6,000 to 5,500 to 5,300. So the spin is dropping down as the club is getting stronger in loft and a little bit more technology in the head. What did that do to distance, which is a bit of a key one here, is my carry. Let's just focus on carry. The total distance, some of them, if they weren't landing on the green, they're going to get more of a forward bounce than they would do normally because it's landing on the fairway on the simulator here. So if we just looked at carry, we went from a 163 carry with the bladed club, the 221, a 167, so a gain of 4 yards into the 223. And actually, to be fair, the last 2 I actually hit better of those. The first couple not as good, and they were near a 170 carry, so even a little bit longer still. With the 225, 175 carry. So it is 12 yards longer than the 221. You know, that's a huge difference, like a club and a half. So I gained yardage, the flight got lower, I gained more distance, I gained more speed. My only worry really with the 225, the strongest lofted iron there, would be could I still stop it on a green, on a course, even as the conditions get firmer. So we are going to jump to a golf course, so I can try out a few different shots over at Horsley Lodge with these 3 irons, and even play some shots around the green just to check they're not coming off too far off the club face. But I think the data is exactly what I was expecting to see. No real shock results in there. I got away with it more as the technology allowed. I gained speed, I gained distance, my flight got that little bit lower. So if you are a low hitter struggling with height, that is a concern when you go into these super, forgiving irons, is how strong lofted they are. You may not be able to get enough height on them, and it's something that's worth testing, at least yourself. Right now we're going to jump over to the golf course and said, check these 3 out over there as well. So now I'm going to be putting these clubs to the test on the golf course. Going to play them from a few different situations. The first one I've got is a tee shot. It is over water, so wish me luck. So the first one I'm going to be testing out here is the blade, the 221. Probably the wrong idea on a cold, frosty morning when I haven't hit many other golf shots, but we're going to give it a go. We've got quite a generous fairway, so I'm just going to be playing this one off the deck, off the tee, just seeing the yardage difference really between them, how easy they feel to hit, what that contact feels like, sounds like. Luckily, that was out in the middle, so it did not hurt the hands at all. Straight down the fairway. That actually felt lovely off the face. As I said before, for me, it doesn't look as intimidating as some other blades, but what I haven't got here is that in a long iron. I'm not sure I'd want to be playing that in a 3-iron, 4-iron, but potentially from the mid-irons down if you're someone who's playing a little bit of golf. Next up, let's just compare this visually to that 223 iron that I've now got. So the middle one, instantly that thicker top edge, that little bit more offset, definitely more meat behind the golf ball. Well, that felt really, really solid. And it looks like it's a good sort of 5-10 yards, we'll see when we get up there, past that bladed club, the 221. So similar flight, possibly a little lower with the 223, which you'd expect because of that loft, and something we saw when we were doing the fitting side of it inside was of course the loft and the technology was hitting that little lower ball flight, that little bit more distance. And this was giving me the lowest flight of all, the 225 irons, so the hollow head, the one with all the technology really. This was going the longest in my studio. Well, that was the worst strike of the 3 there, but still actually flew past the bladed one. So just shows, obviously there is some forgiveness in this head. I hit the first 2 nicely. That was definitely a little skinny, a little bit low toe, but it looked like I got away with it. A little bit of a cutty ball flight, but visually it looks like I've gained even a little bit of distance with the missed strike there using that. So this is where my first shot with the 221, so the bladed iron, finished 159 yards, so a little shorter than I was seeing in the studio, but it's out on the golf course, it's cold weather, it was straight down the middle, I was very happy with it. And actually, I'm right by the bad one I hit there with then the 225, the most forgiving club. So on the worst strike with the 225, it went exactly the same distance. It's maybe a half a yard further, but it went the same distance as that 221. Now I have got up here, it's another 11 or so paces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 paces more, and we get to the 223 iron. So if you are going to play the blade, you have to expect them to be at least a club weaker than these more forgiving irons, these muscle back or the hollow head technology. Now I didn't hit it on camera, but I hit one more because I wasn't very happy with the 225, and that is another 11 paces, 12 paces again. I did draw them. I did gain maybe a couple of yards there, but there definitely is almost a club difference from the blade to the 223, and visually out here, almost another club then to the 225 iron. There is that change in 2 degrees, but it's just something to be aware of when you're looking at your yardages. So this will be an interesting one for me. I am 160 yards out from the green. There's actually 2 greens on this, on the 17th hole here. Frustratingly, they've actually not used this right-hand one, which looks a fantastic hole, but I think just because it's a little bit frosty, a little bit icy this morning, we're playing to a left green. There is trouble all down the right-hand side with the water there. I cannot be landing this short right. It's going to be landing toward, or bouncing towards the water, and it's a very tight green. Now, I'm playing these all at the same distance. This is 160 yards from the flag. A 7-iron, normally my stock 7-iron is about 167, but this is uphill, cold morning, and I think this is playing around that yardage, even though it's a 160 number. With the cold air and a little uphill, I would say this is playing my stock 7-iron. So I'm going to start off with the bladed 221. And just feel, you know, we've got here, we're dealing with slopes and different conditions and turf interaction. So it feels a little different to being in the studio in more of a kind of closed environment. I've managed to hit with the 221 here. I've hit probably the best struck 2 shots I've hit, even better than I hit it in the studio. But I did notice there, even though I struck that nicely, and maybe I'm underestimating this cold air, but that came up just short of the green. It's a good 15 yards short of that pin, so it is playing quite long. Now I've got that middle one of the 3 irons against that 223. Struck it nicely, but it's just right at the pin. That one was landing more pin high. We'll see that as we get up there. It's just missing the green to the right-hand side. Still had plenty of height to be able to stop that ball on the green. Felt lovely. You'll hopefully see from my GoPro camera here, the strikes were nice. It's nice and crisp. They look lovely behind the ball and they feel lovely. And I'd say that's true for all 3. You know, I'm finding it a little bit hard here to sort of pick a favourite. I'd say with those bladed ones, you'd have to be, you know, playing a lot of golf, especially to carry the whole set of them. The 223, the 225 definitely hold that forgiveness on the bad strikes. And that one up there, just catching a little bit on the left side of the green. Again, didn't feel quite as solid as the other 3, but it'll be interesting just to see the distances. Definitely a lower ball flight when you get down into this 225. So my only concern was, can I stop it on the green? But having looked at the data inside, there was still enough spin. Because I think that's always the worry when you look at these. If you're a low hitter, you're not trading enough spin, you've got to just be a little bit careful with these 225 irons, because they are strong lofted. So although you're going to gain some distance when you want that bounce and run, you know, maybe playing it into a fairway possibly, but generally speaking, when you're hitting an iron, you're trying to land it on a green and stop it. And you've just got to know, can you stop these clubs? Because there's no point in landing it on the green and getting something running through when you're not creating enough spin. We're going to get up there. We're also going to play just a couple little shots around the green to see what they're like in terms of finesse on a chip and run. So I've just got up to the green, and the first ball I've come to, just on the front left of the green here, is my shot with the 221, the bladed iron, that felt lovely, but I underestimated perhaps the cold, the uphill. It felt good, but they do feel like they're going to perhaps be even a little bit weaker than my own traditional lofted iron. My 7 iron's 33, this is 34. but mine still feels that little bit hot off the face. I love the flight of it, but there is that little bit of loss of distance. So I've left myself a good 25 foot. Now, the 223 that I hit, that bailed out a little bit right, it almost went too much at the pin, has finished up here. So it's pretty lucky to hold up onto the bank, as we have got then water this way kicking towards it. But it's closer. It was definitely level with the front half of the green. It was around 6-7 yards, well, yeah, around 6-7 yards short of the pin. So it would have been leaving me that sort of 20 odd footer. And the 225 that again, I didn't hit as well. Now there's no real particular reason behind that, but I didn't hit it as well, but actually did catch the left side of the green here and ended up more pin high, and it still stopped quick enough. So it's within about a foot or so of its pitch mark. So that, again, the big thing to look at is the distances you're hitting them. If whichever you go for, learn your yardages. You could then always look at tweaking the lofts if need be. And the one word of warning, as I said with those strong loft designs, is make sure you're able to still stop a ball on a green, that you can hit it with control. Now, I'm playing into quite icy conditions and all of these stop quite quickly, mainly because I missed the green, apart from that one. But do double check that, because it's something you want to know, that you can hold a green, especially with a mid-iron downwards. So lastly, I'm just going to quickly test how they feel on a chip and run, because this is where that muscle, sorry, the bladed club, the 221, really should come into its own. That soft mill carbon steel, what you sometimes get when you get into the technology, especially the hollow head in the 225, is it may come off the face just a little bit too hot, a little bit too quick, a little bit too fiery. However, in saying that, they've staggered these sets quite nicely, and with the shorter clubs, so the 8-9 pitch in the 223, they have the same technology, the mill carbon steel of the 221, and in the 9 and the pitch of the 225, it goes back to this. So if you are only really chipping with, you know, those short irons, the 9 the pitch, the 8-9 pitch in the other set, then it won't worry you too much. But if you were hitting chip and runs with, you know, perhaps the 7 iron on a little chip and run like this, where I want it to roll a lot, this is where they may come off the face just a bit hot, a bit quick. So that was the bladed one, the 221 first of all, and that felt fine, that felt no problem at all, but I was expecting that. Where I wanted to test quickly was the other two heads really, and see the rollout difference if I fly it in a similar area. So I'm just trying to fly it to the edge of the green and just see how it reacts and runs on the green. And lastly, just that 225 iron, so the hottest one of the bunch. Well, I think if you see there, they're all actually pretty similar. I mean, that might be rolled out a couple more feet, but not much in there. So I'm pretty happy with those three in terms of the feel off the face. It didn't feel too fiery with that 225, which is just something I wanted to have a little test. So in conclusion, do they feel like a Mizuno? Absolutely. They felt great, all three of them. So whether it was the blade, whether it's the 223, the middle one that I was trying there, or the hollow head, they all looked good, they all felt good. They definitely felt like a Mizuno, soft off the face. You're getting quality, you're getting grain flow forged, you're getting nice technology. I loved the fact that with the bigger heads here, the 223 and the 225, they do get a little bit smaller into the shorter irons. And in the last couple of irons, to the 9 or the pitch, or for the 223, the 8-9 pitch, they actually go more into the soft mill carbon steel that you get in the 221. I think that's a really nice touch. You can't go wrong with any of these, you really can't. They're great. Obviously, you've got to be a very good ball striker to be using that 221 iron. The majority of golfers are perhaps going to be going into the 223 and the 225, or maybe a combination of them, which you absolutely could do. You just need to be aware of the lofts. as I said, the only word of warning, as I saw on the golf course there, or as I was discussing on the course, is make sure if you do go for these strong lofted irons that you can still stop a ball on a green. I found I was still getting enough launch and enough spin even into this 225 hollow head technology 7 iron. My spin rate came down to 5,200, 5,300, but it was still enough to stop it on a green. It's about 1,000 less than perhaps I was getting with the blade, but there was still enough there. But if you're a low hitter, it's something to be wary of. Of course, you can always play around with the lofts, but make sure you get them custom fitted. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. The link for me just coming along on the screen here. And YouTube is going to suggest another video for you to watch right now, so check that one out as well.